Hello everybody, welcome to episode 7 of the Digital Marketing Punkcast. Thank you very much for joining me once again on the show and listening. So today I am speaking to Josh all the way from Canada, my first international guest. How cool is that, eh? So what are we speaking about today? We're speaking about e-commerce, and we're speaking specifically about the platform Shopify. Why am I talking about e-commerce? Because you don't need me to tell you that e-commerce is absolutely huge and massive at the moment, and there is such a wide variety out there of different platforms that are available to either agencies to be able to build online stores for their clients with developers or in-house teams, obviously, for able to build in e-commerce online stores as well. They're the likes of names you may or may not have heard of: Magento, PrestaShop, what's the other one I'm thinking of? OpenCar is the other one I'm thinking of. And there's much more where they came from. There is absolutely loads out there, different platforms which you can go away and build an e-commerce store from. However, in the not so distant past, there's been a little bit of a change in dynamics, and we always felt that the likes of Magento would never be toppled, but now there's sort of this new era coming into play. There is the likes of Shopify, and there's the likes of marketplaces like Etsy, which essentially allow absolutely anybody to go away and create their own online store, usually within a couple of minutes, which is really cool and really fantastic. And it means that anybody can go away, they have a product which they want to sell, and they can go away, set up one of these stores and start selling. And really, it's only down to the person going out and marketing their products in the right way, with the likes of social media certainly is one of the key things, Facebook posts and Facebook ads and Instagram ads and Snapchat. You can utilize things like Google Ads. It's not called Google Adwords anymore, people. Google Ads and Google Shopping to be able to start pushing your products out in the faces of people who are searching for terms related to your products. Which is really cool and really exciting, but it can be a little bit daunting if you're one of these people that are thinking of going away and want to sell your product online. What do you pick? What do you choose? Do you go to an agency and do you go and ask them? I can pretty much assure you that if you go and ask them, they will come back with, well, you're going to want a Magento store and it's going to be starting price around £30,000. That's a little bit steep for, someone that's just wanting to sell sock puppets. I don't know why I chose sock puppets. There are many, many random products that I pick out when I talk about e-commerce. But if you want to go and sell sock puppets, I think 30 grand is going to take a while for you to get a return on that investment. So this sort of starter pack, I suppose I'll call it, this starter pack of e-commerce platforms which you can go and sell on is really, really cool. And that leads into the other question: is it a starter pack? Certainly for the likes of Shopify, which you'll hear when I talk to Josh in a second. Is that really a starter pack, or is it pretty much a fully fledged e-commerce platform which you can set up and ramp up and develop and keep building on as much as you like? That's what I wanted to talk to Josh about, and that's why I got him on the show this week to talk all about Shopify. Because for me, I think if I was in the situation of someone going to start selling something online, I'd probably go between two options. One would be Shopify, if I wanted really my own sort of store with branding and everything, or with its own feel and everything. Or if I just wanted to sell something in a marketplace, then I would choose Etsy, hands down. So over the next couple of episodes, you're going to hear me talk to, in this episode, Josh about Shopify, and hopefully I want to bring on someone to talk about Etsy, because I think Etsy is really cool, and it's certainly something that you should be hearing about and listening and learning about. And what I really wanted to get to the bottom of is how do you really push these platforms forward? How do you really get to sell the products? And at the end of this interview, I'm going to talk a little bit about that to help you along your way. So here's Josh. He's here to talk about Shopify. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I am here with Josh from BentoSMB. Josh, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So my name is Josh Decaire, and as you said, I'm with an agency called BentoSMB. So the SMB stands for Small Medium Business, and we're in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. We do a number of things, I guess, as many agencies probably do, but the vast majority of our business and our main focus is on developing Shopify stores.
And out of interest, why? Well, no, actually, I've got 2 points here. One, people may have noticed that this is not a typical British accent. Yes, you are from Canada, and I'm going to embarrass myself already a second time because I mentioned this before we started recording, that I made a series of very embarrassing Canadian jokes when we first met, and I was asking for people to talk about Shopify. So I'm going to ask this question. What's it like in Canada at the moment? Obviously, there's a time difference. I apologize for interrupting you halfway through the workday.
Yeah, no problem. It's nice to have a break halfway through the workday. As far as what it's like in Canada, that's I can only speak for where I am. I mean, Canada is a massive country, but
it's a bigger place than the UK, where it's one weather for the entire place.
Yeah, and that's rain, isn't it? Yeah,
it is rain, exactly. Yeah, in fact, it's raining right now. I'm not going to lie to you.
But yeah, it's mid 20 degrees here, probably pushing 30 degrees with humidity, and nice day here, and
lovely.
Yeah, that's pretty much what our summers are like. So
my second question, which is more to the point of what we're actually here to talk about, why Shopify as a service that obviously you provide to your clients?
It kind of started as an accident, really. So Max is
brilliant things do.
Yeah. So Max is my colleague, and he's the owner and CEO of Bento. And this was before I joined the company just over a year ago. One of his clients was interested in Shopify, and so he had a look at it and then saw that it looked like an interesting platform and looked like it was a solution to the needs that they had at the time. So started building on it, and from there just kind of, went into their partner program, became Shopify partners, and from there became Shopify experts through their expert program. So, now here we are. I think that probably would have been about over 2 years ago, probably close to 3 years ago that Max started that Shopify journey. But here we are, 2-3 years later, and a year in for myself, and we're focusing pretty much exclusively on Shopify. And we've just we found it to be a fantastic platform. We found Shopify to be a fantastic company to work with. It makes sense for us. It makes sense for our clients. So.
Brilliant, fantastic. So I suppose gold star for me for picking someone that knows about Shopify as a podcast specifically about Shopify. You definitely know your stuff. Obviously, you've been accredited by all the right people, including Shopify themselves. Give us a brief introduction then. I mean, Shopify is not your typical e-commerce platform in the traditional sense. So what is Shopify?
Yeah, well, I mean, to put it very succinctly, it is an e-commerce platform. And it allows users to kind of develop and manage, I guess, every piece of their e-commerce business. Whether it's the front end website, whether it's the kind of more, I don't want to say back end pieces, because then you start to think of code and things like that. But when I say back end in Shopify, I mean more like the operations pieces, like their shipping and their their inventory, their product settings, and all of that, as well as kind of offline solutions or solutions for brick and mortar retailers on the hardware side. So they're kind of an all-in-one solution. which is one of the things that really attracted us to using them as a solution for our clients.
Absolutely. Now, I suppose I called it's not a traditional e-commerce platform. What I mean by that, there are what I would refer to as traditional e-commerce platforms, and they're the website sort of content management system e-commerce platforms like Magento, like PrestaShop, and I'm trying to think OpenCart and, other names out there. Shopify's different from that. So two-part question, I suppose. What makes Shopify different from those typical e-commerce platforms, and why would people choose it over those type of typical platforms?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the main piece is, and I kind of already mentioned it, but it is really an all-in-one solution. So, a lot of the other solutions out there, like a Magento, for example, it's a cart software, but you still have to figure out the hosting yourself. It's got to be hosted somewhere else, right? Whereas Shopify, they're a fully hosted solution, and they worry about that piece for you. Again, with that whole idea of all-in-one solution, they've got offline solutions as well. And yeah, I think that kind of all in one piece, I'm going to say that another probably 15 times over the course of the next hour, but that all in one piece makes it, I think, really attractive to merchants and to small business owners in particular who may not have all the technical know-how that they need to be able to manage all of these different pieces in different places. Bringing it all together into one dashboard and into one system, I think makes it a lot easier and makes it very attractive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this sort of feeds into my next question, which is the cost implications bit. I mean, I know from the agency that I work at, we use platforms like Magento, we use platforms like OpenCart, and although OpenCart's free, there are limitations to that. There are limitations in terms of what you can do with it being an open source platform, and it's kind of restrained. Magento, the other implication is its huge cost. Yes, there's a community version, which is free, but you have limitations with that. If you then want to take a step up to the next level of Magento, you're talking about thousands of pounds or dollars to actually get the license for it and then to use it, which is a huge outlay for certainly small businesses and for startups or, whatever. So it's one of those, right? Would you consider Shopify as being one of those sort of really good, I don't want to call it entry level, because like you say, it's a full package, but is it good for those that are starting out in the e-commerce world?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another kind of key there is, while it is great for entry level, it's also extremely scalable, right? So their entry level basic plan is $29 a month. And on their kind of 3 typical user packages, the high end on that is $299 a month, but they also have a Shopify Plus platform, which starts at $2,000 a month. So obviously that's more for your enterprise level, but the existence of these different levels kind of shows that it is a fully scalable platform. And for the majority of users, they're gonna be on that $29 a month plan. And as far as web hosting and just kind of business expenses go, I think that's pretty good. I guess when it comes to other costs, you might want to buy a theme for your store. So Shopify, like many other, website platforms and content management systems, they use themes. They do have a handful of free themes, but there's a lot of premium ones as well. And those can range from, $140 to $350. We typically recommend for more established businesses that you do look at the premium themes, just because of the features and abilities that that you'll find in them. But for people who are just kind of starting out in e-commerce and in business and are just wanting to kind of dip their toe in, then the free themes will have everything you need.
I suppose in terms of a theme, sorry to interrupt. In terms
of
theme, what we're talking about is, how it, I say how it looks, but sometimes a theme can be so much more than that. A theme is essentially you not having to then go away and, code in numerous different complicated programming languages, which only, nerds know, the different way in which your store's going to look. These are pre-packaged almost gifts of how it's going to look, which you can change and amend. It's not completely restricted, but you can change and amend to make it fit your needs, as it were. But you almost get everything that you need in this theme, and you can just throw it up there and tinker to your requirements.
Yeah, exactly. And how much tinkering you're able to do is going to depend on the specific theme. And, you're not going to be able to do as much tinkering with the free themes as you are with the ones that cost a few $100s. But, like I said, for people who are just starting out, the free ones are going to have everything you need.
Mm-hmm.
And, for more established businesses that are looking to kind of upgrade their online presence and the capabilities that they have with their online store, the premium themes are probably going to be the direction that they'll want to go in. In terms of some other costs, there's an app ecosystem with Shopify. So, very similar to plugins if you're using WordPress. There's, I think, 2,400 or 2,500 or so apps in the Shopify App Store.
Wow.
Yeah, they range from free to lots of dollars a month. So depending on your specific needs, you may have to spend a little bit of money on a monthly basis on some apps. And then I guess the other piece, as far as costs go, is your payment processing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have that kind of no matter where you go in terms of an e-commerce platform. You're always going to have to pay to process your payments.
Mm-hmm.
But Shopify payments is the default setup through Shopify, and that's run through Stripe, which is a very popular online payment gateway. The fees on that are pretty typical. If you're on the basic plan, you'll be, I think it's 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction, which is very normal. And that's probably going to be the way most new users are going to want to go is using Shopify payments. If you are an established business, you've probably already got a payment gateway that you're using, and chances are it is supported by Shopify. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. You will get dinged with an extra fee though if you're using a third-party payment gateway, and that'll range from 0.5% to 2%. And that depends on what Shopify plan you are on.
I think one of the things I want to sort of highlight here is, and I'm going to ask another question sort of on top of this in a second, and that is, I think with the low cost implied with Shopify, a monthly rolling basis of, $20 odd, and I could do the Great British Pound Sterling conversion on that, but with Brexit at the moment, that could be absolutely anything. But I suppose the point I want to make is, with the low cost, do you find that clients that come to you are perhaps wary of Shopify in terms of its functionality? Do they think it's cheap and cheerful and it's not going to be able to provide the things that they require, when in fact one of the strengths of Shopify is that it almost has everything built into it? When we talk about Magento and PrestaShop, you essentially rely on a community of developers outside of the business of Magento and PrestaShop to develop and create and all of these plugins for you, and they can be hugely costly. Whereas Shopify have either, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they have either inbuilt, as in built within their own company, the plugins, so they are very, very stable and they usually cost very, very little, as it's added on probably to the sort of concurrent subscription price. So that surely plays as one of their strengths, that they have so much functionality in terms of all of these like payment gateways and things like that. Stripe is a hugely popular payment gateway, and it's very, very good and very, very effective. All of these basically come baked into to Shopify without having to mess around with other kinds of developers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've never actually encountered that as an objection. People being wary of the platform because it's too cheap. I think that for businesses that do have more advanced needs, they're not necessarily going to be on that $29 a month plan, right? They might be on the $79 a month or even the $299 plan. For obviously the very few clients, the enterprise level, they'll be on the $2,000 a month plan. But, depending on your specific needs, I think your Shopify kind of subscription is, the cost of it is going to be pretty standard, relative to your needs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it's completely and utterly scalable. So even if you find that your functionality is perhaps restricted because of the price plan that you're on, it's very easy to sort of up that level. Out of interest, because this is something that I don't know, how, are there big companies, e-commerce platform systems that use Shopify as a platform, or do they feel that they outgrow it? This is something that I don't know, so this will be an interesting question for me. Are there big platforms out there that use Shopify as their base online store, or is it more bespoke?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest brands in terms of volume that gets put through their Shopify store, and I'm sure you'll be intimately familiar with the Kardashian family, but Kylie Jenner and her, I guess, cosmetic line. I think it's just called Kylie. It runs on Shopify, and I don't remember off the top of my head exactly the numbers that go through that platform on a daily or quarterly or whatever basis, but it's huge.
I think we can safely imagine that it's a large amount of money going through. When you've got that name attached to it, I think it's going to be okay. Yeah. So that's interesting. So, it is very, very, very scalable. You won't necessarily find an upper limit unless you're going to the very, very bespoke level of e-commerce experience. You're probably not going to find an upper limit for your typical e-commerce store platform. Next question. What are the skills that you're going to have if you are going to set up a Shopify store yourself, or you're thinking about it, or, even if you're thinking about getting an agency involved, like yourselves to advise on Shopify? What are the skills or the prerequisites, I suppose the best word, before you go down that journey of having a Shopify?
Yeah. So to get a store set up, and, a relatively plain but clean and functional store setup, it's not too difficult. There are lots of high quality themes, like I mentioned. Some of them are free, but if you do go with one of the premium ones, your store is probably going to look even better. So for the average person, they'll probably be able to go in and play around and get a functional store up and running on their own. For the average person making larger customizations to their site, they're probably not going to be able to do that. One of the nice things about Shopify is it is fully customizable, but you do have to have an understanding of things like CSS and Liquid, which is the foundation code for Shopify. And you do have to have an understanding of those things to be able to really customize your site, but it is possible. So if you do understand those things and do have those skills, you're able to do that yourself. But if you are not, there's a fantastic and large community of Shopify partners and Shopify experts. And that's, I think, actually another one of the strengths of Shopify that I neglected to mention earlier is this partner and expert ecosystem. So if you're a Shopify merchant, when you log into your dashboard, you should see somewhere in there, a button, a link, an icon that will direct you to, get support from accredited experts with pretty much anything that you might be struggling with, whether it's development, design, marketing, advertising. And Shopify has invested a lot of time and energy and money into setting the system up to connect merchants to the help that they need to enable them to have success with the platform. So those are for things that fall outside the realm of what you would expect Shopify to provide support for in their free support, which is quite good as well. They've got free 24/7 support, but they're not going to do custom theme development for you, right? So instead of you having to go as a merchant, instead of you having to go out and do a lot of research and due diligence and things like that in finding someone to help you out with whatever it is you need on your Shopify store, Shopify's set up a great system to connect you with people who can help you out.
I suppose leading from that then, ease of use. So, certain e-commerce platforms, and not that I want to denounce any other platforms, but the likes of Magento, for example, ease of use for things like that is not easy. And I'm not talking about developer here. I'm talking about the people that are going on, that own these stores, that want to do, day-to-day administrative tasks for their online store. And you're obviously going to be a bit biased here, but I'm going to ask you to take off that bias now and give it to us straight. What do you think about the ease of use of a Shopify store? Is it easy to use to be able to do those day-to-day
Yeah,
tasks?
I think so. And honestly, I think my bias is probably more in that I'm more of a technically inclined person than maybe some people might be. So I do find things like that a little bit easier to pick up, as opposed to my bias being that we work with Shopify. Yeah, it is quite well set up. Their dashboard is very easily laid out if you're needing to make changes to your inventory, if you're needing to check out your reporting and your analytics, if you're needing to go through the order fulfillment process, and along with that, print out your shipping labels and things like that. It's all relatively intuitive. I mean, there's going to be a learning curve there, as there would be for anybody who's jumping into something that's brand new to them. But compared to other systems that are out there, and just other, even like a WordPress or something like that, just another kind of tech platform to learn, digital platform to learn. I find Shopify pretty intuitive, and for those who do have a few more issues with it, I guess, I find their support is fantastic. Like I said, it's free. It's 24/7. There's a ton of quality content on their website, and then there is just the ability to easily connect with partners and experts for paid support.
There's a lot of layers there of support. Like you say, you've got obviously the written documentation, which is there on their website. You have the ability to be able to contact Shopify themselves, or you can get that expert in if it's something more bespoke and relating to you, which is not something that you get a lot of the time with those other type of e-commerce platforms, unless you are spending a heck of a lot of money. The other side of it, and you sort of touched on it there regarding about analytics and stuff, was is it easy to utilize sort of these third party softwares which we all utilize for our marketing? This is Digital Marketing Podcast. After all, I suppose we have to talk about digital marketing at some point. But is it easy to utilize? I'm thinking stuff like Google AdWords, Google Analytics, like you mentioned. Are they easy to plug in?
Absolutely. I mean, Google Analytics, how easy it is to use, that's kind of up to you. But in terms of just being able to connect to it and integrate with it, absolutely. That's another thing that I really love about Shopify. Shopify is that they're always, seems like they're always introducing new integrations and new connections. So if you do want to hook up to your Google Analytics account, and which everybody absolutely should, if you have a website and you don't have Google Analytics installed, then you should probably do that right this moment.
100%, absolutely.
But they've got enhanced e-commerce analytics available as well, which it goes through Google Analytics, but it just passes through more data specific to your products and your sales and conversions and things like that.
That's another good point, because this is something from a client that I work with currently, is something that we don't have at Magento. And I keep mentioning Magento, and that the reason I keep doing that is because it is the big player, one of the big player, and it probably gets, in my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion, please don't come after me, Magento Mafia, but in my personal opinion, it's hyped up a lot for what it is, and it costs a lot of money for the professional platform, and then restrictions on that if you're not on that professional platform. And that's one of the key areas. You cannot, in Magento, if you're on the community edition, plug in enhanced Google Analytics to be able to get that transactional data, that data which you need to be able to properly influence the digital marketing efforts that you're doing. You can't plug that in innately. You have to either basically develop something yourself, or you have to pay for a usually very expensive plugin, which can be £500, £600 / dollars, to be able to do that. And it's frustrating at that level. It's good to hear that Shopify does that basically innately. The next point I want to make is Google Shopping, because this is key, and it's going to relate into Facebook ads and Facebook catalog and stuff like that as well. But, there is a very close connection, and this was very prominent back in the Google I/O, which recently happened, with a very close connection between Google and Shopify. And that was sort of brought to the forefront a little bit recently with the latest Google Shopping developments of essentially you don't even need a feed anymore. Now, what we mean by a feed is what you had to do for Google Shopping previously. And by Google Shopping, what I mean by that is if you type a product into Google, if you're looking for floral wallpaper, for whatever reason best known to yourselves, but if you're looking for floral wallpaper, then you sometimes see products come up in visual picture form on the search results page of those products, and that's the Google Shopping feed. And what you used to have to do, and you still do if you don't have Shopify, I suppose, is that you used to have to have a feed, and that was basically a list of your products which dynamically generated almost every single day. But now you don't need that anymore. Shopify is so innate with Google that it just reads the Shopify store. It reads basically your front end. It just reads your products and stuff, and it be able to feed straight into Google Shopping.
I don't know if you want to specifically talk about Google Shopping, but I think maybe to just expand that out a bit and not just go specific to Google Shopping, but whether we're talking Google Shopping, Google AdWords more generally, Facebook ads, your email marketing efforts, any of those pieces, Shopify makes it very easy to connect to them. And they actually announced at Shopify Unite conference, which I think was this past May, I believe it was, that at some point this summer, all of those different integrations are going to be pulled into one marketing dashboard right within your Shopify account. And that will make it, it'll make it extremely easy for me to be able to set up campaigns across there. Like I said, whether it's your shoppable posts on Instagram, whether it's your Google Shopping, whether it's just general Google AdWords and things like that. So I don't know specifically or exactly what that's going to look like yet. But that's something that we're really excited to have a look at, because I think that's going to make it much, much easier for, in particular, the small business owners, right? I think the larger businesses, they're going to be able to outsource a lot of that stuff, right? And Facebook ads might be handled by a separate agency, or the Google AdWords and things like that. But for your average kind of small business that might only have a few team members, they don't necessarily have the time, the ability, or the budget to be able to afford one or more third-party agencies to be able to manage all of those things for them. So the ability to pull all of those into one dashboard and make it very easy to connect to them, I think that's going to be a game changer for a lot of business owners.
I think you are absolutely right. I think if and to have all that pulled into one, and having so many different platforms integrated innately onto that one dashboard is an absolute game changer, because you're spot on again by saying that is huge for small business owners and for startups, or for small to medium sized businesses that probably don't have the digital marketing team that the big conglomerates probably do. And that's absolutely right. If you're able to innately be able and easily, be able to channel all those through one dashboard, and simply to have them all in one place, that reduces so much time and effort which you do have to go through. And you do have to go through it with other platforms. You have to have, for the likes of other e-commerce platforms, you have to have all these different other plugins, and sometimes you have to develop the things out yourself, and to have that innately into one platform, absolutely massive and absolutely huge, and an absolute lifesaver for the small business. Because at the end of the day, all these platforms go about, we have this functionality, we have this ability, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, once you have your online store set up and it's working, other than sort of conversion rate stuff, the next step is marketing. It's marketing out those products so people actually see them and want to buy them. It's absolutely massive.
Yeah, and we often ask people when they come to us and ask us to build a Shopify store for them, before we go through that process, and before I'm comfortable with moving forward with them and them investing in that store, I want to know that they plan to actually grow it, right? Because simply developing the site is it's a small percentage of the battle. It's like kind of mentioned earlier, it is pretty easy for the average person to get up and running with a Shopify store. But doing that doesn't mean that you're going to have any traffic. It doesn't mean that you're going to make any sales. So, making sure that you've got a plan in place to get traffic and the right traffic, to your website. And that's the bigger piece there for sure.
Because I know it's developing all the time. And for me personally, it's the platform which is, and I don't know what your viewpoint on this is, but for me, it's like I alluded to before. I feel because people think that it's cheap, and it is cheap, that people, maybe my theory, my assumption is that people think it's cheap and cheerful, and that's why they don't go for it. I don't actually think that's the case. I think the case is that agencies don't want to sell it because, anybody can make a store. It doesn't mean they can make a good store, and it doesn't mean that they can drive traffic to it like you were alluding to, and it doesn't mean that they can drive conversions, they can drive sales. Agencies probably don't want to sell it because they can't make that markup on it, when you've got the value of it there. But in terms of the actual platform and the ability to be able to create an online store that works effectively and works well without too many issues, and be able to market the products at a certain level easily, quickly and easily, Shopify is really stand out for me.
Yeah, I think so. Or not. I think so. Yeah, I definitely agree. And it feels like they're always working to improve the platform and always looking to, like I said, add more integrations. Even with something like Amazon. You might kind of see Amazon as a bit of a competitor to Shopify, and kind of a fundamentally different take on e-commerce, right? It's marketplace versus versus owned store. But that being said, it can be very beneficial for business owners to be on both. So Shopify has a direct to Amazon integration, right? So it's easy for you to have products listed on both your Shopify store and through your Amazon seller account. And
it's usually a great way to drive traffic as well, and certainly recurring traffic from our remarketing perspective. That Amazon has, you already know this, but that Amazon has the traffic, and where people are going to be able to see your products. And if you can get that conversion on Amazon, they're perhaps more likely to come back to your own store, or they might even go back to the Amazon store. There is a huge potential within Amazon and that integration between the online store and Amazon to be able to drive a lot of traffic and sales. It's a great way to get yourself off the ground.
Yeah, it can be. And I think that's marketplaces in general. We've been talking within our group, and wrote a post recently about Etsy versus Shopify, and obviously there's been some changes recently to the Etsy platform and the fee structure and things like that. So we thought it was a good time to have a look at that platform and kind of point out some of the differences between it as both Etsy specifically and then just marketplaces in general versus an owned store using something like Shopify. And that is one of the benefits of marketplaces, definitely, is the traffic is kind of built in. Obviously, just because you list a product on a marketplace doesn't mean that the traffic is necessarily going to find it, but that traffic is built in, and thinking about how you're going to set up your Facebook ads and how you're going to do your retargeting and your MailChimp follow-up or your Klaviyo follow-up or whatever it is. You don't necessarily have to do that through a marketplace, but it can be a very nice complement to an owned store like a Shopify, and you can use it to, do research and test out new products and see what's going to get traction and try and figure out ways to use it to drive traffic back to your own store and things like that. So yeah, it can absolutely be beneficial.
Excellent. I suppose my final question before we sign all this off is, you've obviously worked in this for quite a while. You've worked with a lot of clients. What are your big hints and tips for people starting out with the Shopify platform? Not just building the site, but for marketing as well. What's the advice that you can give someone that's starting out?
Yeah, I think, we kind of already touched on it, but it's that idea of having a plan to get traffic, and the right traffic. Traffic's not all created equal. Getting the right traffic to your website. One of the fantastic things about Shopify is that it's extremely easy to get started with it. On the flip side, one of the terrible things about Shopify is that it's extremely easy to get started. I have a lot of conversations every week with merchants who, I think they thought it would be easier, right? They thought it would be easier, and I don't mean easier to build the store. I mean easier to have success with it, and to make money online and kind of live the dream of being at home in your boxers making money, right? And it's the fact is it's not that easy. So whether you're somebody who's just getting into it and you have zero business experience, or you're an established business who's been around for a long time but you're looking to make a change. Just really understanding that while Shopify can do a lot of fantastic things for you, it's really just a tool, and you need to make sure that you understand how to, use it, and to get the full potential out of it.
Absolutely. In terms of marketing your products, then from a social aspect, what do you feel is the biggest sort of live wire at the moment? And I suppose this, I'm going to answer my own question here, but I suppose it's very much to do with the product that you're selling. But is there a big place where, the key place socially to start putting your products on? I mean, some people just think, I want to advertise my product, I want to sell my product, market it through paid ads or whatever, and people just go, Adwords or Google Shopping. Is that changing now?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it does depend quite a bit on your product and who your target market is, and that's another area that I see a lot of people failing to spend the necessary time is figuring out exactly who their target market is, and figuring out where they hang out, and by where they hang out, I mean, are they spending all their time on Instagram, or are they on Pinterest, or are they on LinkedIn, or where online are they spending their time, and where are they most likely to interact with your content or your ad if you put it in front of them. And yeah, that's that's something that I see often. A lot of my conversations with people who are looking for help and aren't necessarily getting the traction that they want to get. It's clear that they haven't taken the time to really research who their target audience is, and what their pain points are, and how they can really appeal to them.
Okay, so my final question before I really do sign this off is, so BentoSMB, what is it that you guys do? What's your unique selling point? Why should people come to you looking for that Shopify experience, and what is it that you provide that no one else can?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we build Shopify stores, but we try and put a focus on trying to figure out how to make the store fit in well with your retail operations specifically. So we do try and work with brick and mortar retailers when possible, and we work with a lot of online only merchants as well, but specifically for those brick and mortar retailers who are looking to grow into online, there's a lot of pieces there, right? So that's whether it's your hardware and your POS and getting that all connected up, whether that's just figuring out how to just kind of from a conceptual level how to handle your inventory now that you're also selling online, or you're selling more online, and getting getting connected to your accounting software and things like that. So kind of taking it one step further than just building a store. That's kind of where we try and put our focus, because there are so many tools out there now, right? And it's really easy for people to get overwhelmed with the amount of options there are for them to use and potentially misuse, right? So that's kind of where we try and offer some value is figuring out what those different pieces are and helping people out with them.
What do you find, and I'm asking another question here, but what do you find is the biggest stumbling block, certainly for, like you say, the bricks and mortar sort of shops and stores that are then looking to not experiment online, but looking to expand themselves online? What do you think the biggest stumbling blocks are for them, or the biggest difficulties that they have that they should perhaps consider before taking this step?
Yeah, I think the biggest kind of issue that we see with it is just a hesitation, and a kind of that fear of the unknown, right? They know and they understand that e-commerce is extremely important and becomes, more important every day. But, we know that Shopify is a fantastic platform. But they don't know Shopify from Magento, from WooCommerce, from anything else out there. And, they don't necessarily have the confidence in themselves that they're going to be able to manage these things on an ongoing basis as well, right? So those are things that we try to address. But I think that that's the biggest, the biggest stumbling block for a lot of the kind of traditional brick and mortar retailers that we do deal with, is just that hesitation and not necessarily understanding or believing that it can necessarily be successful for them. So that's our job to address that, right, and make it successful for them. But yeah.
I suppose that becomes a lot easier when you take in the sort of cost implications of Shopify rather than the bigger Magento. You got to outlay 10 grand just to get the platform itself. I suppose it's much easier for you to be able to advise and ease people into that whole new digital world when you're just saying, well, it's you start out at this, or you can start free and you can have this integration. We can start here and we can build towards this. I suppose it's much easier for them to then take that step onto
yeah, I think so. We do a lot of just kind of coaching and consulting. So while, ideally our kind of ideal project is a full scale site build and, kind of look into in support of your operations and things like that. We also recognize that for a lot of people, that's not going to be either where their needs are right now, or they're just not going to have a comfort level with that, with that kind of more in-depth overhaul of things. So that's where, spending, 2 or 3 hours, a month or every couple of weeks doing a bit of coaching and consulting to ease into things can help for sure.
Well, Josh, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and talking all things Shopify with me. Just before we sign off, just tell people where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, because I think from the sounds of it, what you do is really fantastic and sort of helping and easing and coaching and consulting some of the things that, other agencies don't do. They just want to take the project and take it on, build it and turn it around and throw it out the door again. And I think what you're talking about there is fantastic. So tell people where they can find you and how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, if you head to BentoSMB.com, so BentoSMB.com, you can connect with us there. We've got a nice little bot on the website. You can easily chat through that, and we usually come right to my cell phone if I'm available. I can chat with you right through there, or it can give you my calendar if you want to book some time with me. And then to connect with me kind of on a more personal level, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I think you'll agree with me that Josh was an absolutely awesome guest. Thank you so much for Josh coming on to the Digital Marketing Podcast. This two little Bitcoin. I was going to say Bitcoin then. Why was I going to say Bitcoin? I had no idea. But this 2-bit podcast all about digital marketing. Thank you so much for coming onto the show, Josh. I really, really appreciate it. Really interesting to talk about Shopify. I'll be honest, it's not one of the things that I know a huge amount about. I know about it. I know its importance. I know, as you may have gathered, that Google have had a lot of input and influence with Shopify, and they seem to really be driving it at the moment, which is really cool. But since talking to Josh, for me, like I said at the start of the show, if I was going to choose between e-commerce platforms or I had a product that I wanted to sell online, my two options would be Etsy and Shopify, hands down, and maybe a growth between them. If I was me, I had a product and I just wanted to see if people were interested and people would buy it, I'd probably go down the Etsy route first of all. Set yourself a shop on Etsy and see how that goes. See if people are going to buy it, and obviously promote it on social media. Create a page on Facebook, create an Instagram. You know, my partner at the moment has got a shop on Etsy. Little Distractions, by the way, go and check it out. And she's part of numerous like communities and groups where Etsy owners all help each other out with the promotion and marketing of the products, which is really, really cool, and it has really, really worked. So I think that's the starting point, setting up the Etsy store. And if things start to grow and things start to get bigger, I think Shopify, with its low fees and its monthly rate, I think is the next step when you really want to start giving that store an identity, a brand, and a little bit of ownership in there as well with what you can do with it. So what can you do to market your products on an e-commerce platform like Shopify? Well, here's my advice. Not that I usually give it on this podcast, but I'm going to start doing it more often. Here's my advice. First of all, plug your e-commerce platform into a marketplace. Amazon, eBay, there's a whole load of them out there, but go and plug them in, because those sites, okay, you may think, oh, there's loads of products on there and oh, no one's ever going to find them. You may be very pleasantly surprised. Go and plug it in to Amazon. Those sites have the traffic, and it's a huge, huge amount of traffic. Go and plug them in and your products will be seen and hopefully will be bought. Now, there will be fees involved with Amazon, etc. That's obviously just sort of, you can think of it as a stopgap or you can think of it as another stream of revenue, but just be aware there will be fees involved with the likes of Amazon and eBay, but it will start to get your products noticed. And if you start to sell your products on Amazon or eBay, think about when you're sending that product out, what could you include with that product? A little bit of a slip of paper. You've probably ordered something off Amazon or eBay before from a third party sort of supplier. You've probably found a little slip in there, a little bit of paper with a voucher, 10% off, or a voucher code. If you start doing that, then people are going to return. And where are they going to return to? Not necessarily Amazon this time. They're going to return to your store because you put your web address on there, which is another great way of increasing that traffic back to your Shopify site. And then you have full ownership. Then you get you reap all the rewards once you get them back to your site. So there's my first hint. Okay, plug them into Amazon, eBay, whatever it is. Start thinking about social media and how you're promoting it. Now, if you had an Etsy store before you went onto Shopify, you probably already had social media outlets, but really start driving with them and have a strategy. Start developing and testing out new ways to promote your products, and look at your insights. We're talking about Facebook here, let's say. Look at your insights. What posts have been doing well? What type of posts have been doing well? Has it been video? Has it been pictures? Has it been just plain text? Whatever it is, what's been doing well and what's been not, and that will sort of form a little bit of a feedback loop. It'll tell you, right, well, you know, pictures were doing well for me, so I'm going to start posting more pictures and being more creative with my pictures. Maybe I'll start doing a competition. Word of warning with competitions on Facebook. Facebook have clamped down on this. Oh, like and share my page and comment with someone else. My advice is, and I know people will say, oh, it works. I appreciate that. But if Facebook really start clamping down which they already have on organic posts of that nature, if Facebook really start clamping down on that kind of thing, you don't want to be in the firing line. So don't do it. Be more creative. For me, personally, it's lazy fucking marketing. It's just, I'm just going to get more engagement and play the system a little bit by getting people to like and comment and share. Don't do it, okay? It's blazingly obvious if Facebook wanted to really clamp down on it. So be more creative with your posts, okay? You can do competition-esque things on your Facebook page, but don't do it in the way where you're trying to play the system. Be clever about it. Do competitions like, I don't know, I'm going to think of crap ideas now, but caption competitions with a photograph of one of your products or whatever it is. Just try and be creative. Do different things. If you think it's stupid, do it fucking anyway, because you may find that it works. And if it works, you can do it again and again. And people might like the stupidity of it. People may engage with the stupidity of it. If people think that something is stupid, they're more likely to share it. Don't think that you're looking like an idiot, because you probably won't be looking like an idiot, because on social media, no one cares. So be creative, do different things, try different things, but always, always, always check your analytics back and check your insights, on Facebook, and see what works and what doesn't work. So, social media and plugging into a marketplace. Also try, if things are starting to go really, really well and you're selling product now and you've got a little bit of, perhaps a bit of a marketing budget behind you, when you can start really ramping things up, start considering things like Facebook adverts, Instagram adverts, and Google ads as well. Now, my advice with these sort of paid ads is pick your platform well. And I'm not saying that only one platform will work for you, but numerous platforms might do that. And the example I always give is, I used to have a client who sold sewage pumps, okay? Not the sexiest product at all, okay? Let's be honest. Let's be brutally honest here. It's shit, pardon the pun. But they worked on Google Adwords because people were typing it in. They had a need for that product, so they were typing it in and finding them first. Google Shopping worked again because people were typing in the product that they were looking for, and a picture would show up and they'd go, right, that is it, that's what I need. They did not work on Facebook because no one, unless you're weird, no one wants to see a sewage pump come up on their Facebook feed amongst, pictures of their friends and their family and their loved ones. Don't want to see it. Okay, so pick your platform well, and focus your budget onto that platform that you think is going to work well. If you're not sure what platform's going to work, then do a test on each independently, okay? So you can put a full amount of budget, 1 month on Facebook, 1 month on Instagram, 1 month on AdWords. Google Ads. Google police will take me out if I call it AdWords. Try 1 month on Google Ads and see which one works the best, and then find it, pick it, and go with it, and push everything in it. Now, if you're just putting in a couple of pounds a day or a couple of pounds a month even, into one of these platforms and it's not working for you, don't just go, I tried it didn't work for me. Keep going, okay? Try different things, test and react and change, and see if you can find that sweet recipe which will really hit the spot. That's one of the common mistakes that some people make. They just try something, Google AdWords, I put a couple of quid in, if it doesn't work for me, not for me, doesn't work, it's rubbish, all that kind of bullshit. So keep at it and keep trying. And if it really doesn't work and you think you've put everything in and you don't think you're getting the engagement, and the data is telling you, everything is screaming at you, this is not where you want to be doing it, then stop, okay? And move on to something else. Okay, that's it. That's all my advice. That's not all my advice. That's some of my advice. But that's all the advice that I'm going to give you. Okay, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Digital Marketing Punkcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to come and find me, go on to LinkedIn, search for Thomas Marriott, connect with me, chat with me, talk with me. Certainly, if you are an Etsy store owner, I want to talk to you quite rapidly, actually. You can find me on Twitter at digital_punk. You can also find me on Facebook at Digital Marketing Punk as well. Just come and talk to me and have a conversation. If you like the show, then that's great. If you don't like the show, come and tell me why. And I will try and make it better. I'm going to be mixing things up a little bit in the future. I'm going to be doing a few shows, just me, very short things, just me giving advice and my opinions and things like that. So if you do have something that you think I should be talking about and you want my express opinion, why would you want that? But you want my opinion about that kind of stuff, then ask me, tell me. Thank you so much for all the very kind words I've had recently about the podcast. It's been absolutely wonderful. Keep them coming, because it makes me keep doing it rather than giving up. So thank you very much. I hope you will join me next time on the Digital Marketing Podcast. Goodbye.